Just gonna wait for someone to hop on before I start talking. If you are watching this on the replay, please hashtag replay. And if you are watching this on the replay, thank you. Even though you couldn't catch me live, I'm glad that you were able to watch this video. I think it's going to be very informative. Give it about 30 more seconds and then I'm going to get started. Oh, looks like I do have someone on. So please say hi in the comments so I know you can hear me and so I can say hi to you back. And I'm going to get started because one person to talk to is enough for me. So I wanted to do this live in response to a question that I got from a new group member. And she was saying that she has been habitually attracting men who need to be saved, who they need her help. She's kind of like a healer or just someone who has natural abilities to help others. And she wonders why she keeps attracting this kind of man. So what I wanted to talk about in relation to that is so everything that goes on in our lives and love lives especially is actually a mirror. So any dynamic that exists within your romantic partnerships is actually pointing inward. It is showing you something that's already going on inside you that's literally just being projected out onto your partner or whoever you're seeing. So there's always a message for you in the type of man that you are attracted to or that you keep attracting, especially if you notice a pattern. So you don't want to get distracted in thinking that there's something to explore about the men. It's actually pointing toward there's something to explore within with you. So in the case of continually being attracted to someone or to multiple people that need your help, there is something called white knight syndrome or white knight complex. And I kind of want to go over a little bit about that. I think that will tie greatly into what this member's question is inquiring about, why, this keeps being the case with her. So just some characteristics of what being a white knight is. Okay, so if you have white knight complex or white knight syndrome, whatever you want to call it, you basically have this inclination to fix or help the people that you are in relationship with, but it crosses healthy boundaries to the point where it's to your own demise. And this may sound similar to codependency, but in the case of the white knight, you're actually trying to save that person from themselves. It's not so much about addiction and things like that. So very slight variation with the white knight. But so white knights, a lot of women that I know see themselves as empaths. So you're an empath, you're highly sensitive, you are someone who people tend to go to for advice. They tend to go to you when they have problems because you're a great problem solver. You are a healer. A lot of times you may be the oldest or the most responsible of your siblings or your cousins, or you maybe even grew up in a situation where your parents had some issues and you kind of had to step up and be almost like a parent type of child, where you were the responsible one. You had to take care of your parents or take care of your siblings instead of them doing it. So you were kind of forced to grow up quickly and assume that role of like being a leader and being someone who solved problems. Okay. You become fixated on healing those with deep issues. So you have a natural attraction for people who have a lot of stuff going on. Instead of you being repelled by the drama, you're actually intrigued. You actually get activated and feel like, oh, there's something for me to fix here. I can help with that. I can solve your problem. You get drawn in by that. Whereas someone who doesn't have the white knight complex, they would see this situation as, okay, I understand you have issues. Either that's not a match for what I'm looking for, or those issues are yours to deal with. And I may be inclined to help if you ask, but they don't feel a sense of responsibility to step in and try to save others. Okay. So someone who has that white knight, that fixer complex, another key characteristic is that you become so fixated on helping another person with their issues that you are ignoring your own issues. So you become consumed with their life, their problems, what they're doing, and you neglect your own self. You neglect your own needs, wants, what's going on in your life, what needs attention that's going on with you, in favor of basically placing this person on a pedestal and trying to help them sort their life out. Okay. I said that you help to your own demise. So that is a key differentiator between someone who is helping out of compassion, or someone who is crossing the line of what's healthy and they're actually taking from what they need to give to others, and continually doing that. Something that I like to emphasize to women is that relationships are reciprocal. So they're not meant to be transactional, whereas it's tit for tat. I give this, you give that. But there should be a steady flow, almost like a game of tennis where, I'm hitting the ball to you, you're hitting the ball back to me. Like, it can't be one-sided. You can't be throwing all this support, energy, resources, love, time, effort, all of that in one direction, and it's not being reciprocated or sent back to you. You need that in order for you to be filled, in order for it to actually be a relationship that has mutual interest and mutual investment. You need to be receiving as well. And especially as women, it's super important for us to be receiving and not the one that's giving all the time, because then you're in your masculine energy. And we really flourish best when we are in our feminine energy. That is our natural state. That is where we are our most magnetic, where men can enjoy us the most, and where we are the happiest. And it's actually best for our bodies, our minds, our mental, our emotional state, all of that, if we're in our feminine energy. So if you find yourself being the giver, the fixer, the problem solver, and all of that, like I'm describing with the white knight, then you're likely also operating out of a masculine energy, and that can affect the dynamics in your relationships with men as well, and not for the better. Okay, so also in the white knight syndrome or situation, you will often find yourself almost in a parental type of role with the men or partners that you're involved with. So it's more than just, I'm supporting, I'm helping you problem solve, I'm here alongside you while you work on your issues. It's almost like how you would with a child. You almost don't trust them or allow them to solve their own problems. You kind of jump in with your suggestions or your solutions and things like that. And you kind of assume the role of, it's my job to make your life easier. It's my job to help you. It's my job to figure this problem out for you. And where that can become a problem is anytime you're trying to save someone, first of all, you can't. We all have to save ourselves. You can save children, but once we're an adult, we have to save ourselves. There is no one that can save you once you are an adult. So you have to understand that. And the person has to want it also. Otherwise, you're working against someone trying to save them and they don't want to be saved. But the main thing I wanted to point out about this is if you're trying to save someone, okay, and they are resisting you, they are not wanting, what you're trying to push on them, and you want it more than they do, that's a problem. Okay, because then that actually points to that it's something with you where you are inserting yourself and immersing yourself in their life, and you're actually preventing them from the accountability that they need to be motivated to fix their own life if they have issues going on. And also, God may be trying to deal with them. Okay. A lot of us, we have been motivated to change. We're either motivated through trying to avoid pain or trying to pursue pleasure or happiness or joy. So if you shield someone from the natural consequences of their choices and actions, you delay that trigger in their mind that tells them, hey, I need to get my life together. I need to make some changes. I need to do things differently. If you are their safety net, if you are the person who always cushions their fall, sometimes people need to hit rock bottom. Sometimes people need to experience that pain or those consequences in order to be motivated to lasting change. And it means more when it comes from within, when they make that decision that they're going to change their life. Now, some people do need help along the way. I mean, we all need help. But helping when someone is already on the path is different than pushing someone on the path and insisting and pushing and trying to coerce them into seeing that they need to be different or they need to fix this problem when they don't seem to be preoccupied or even concerned with the problem. It's actually your problem. It's something that's bothering you, but it's not so much bothering them. And part of why it's not bothering them is because you're making the situation comfortable for them. Okay, so a lot of this, how you find yourself in this position, of course, like with anything, goes back to childhood. So in childhood, were there needs that went unmet from your caregivers or your parents? So you were left with a void. You didn't feel like anyone was there for you, supporting you, having your back, or you felt like you had to take care of them. You had to prove and be a people pleaser and be a good girl and fix issues in order to get the attention or the love that you needed. If you had parents or caregivers who had some toxic tendencies, maybe you grew up with a parent or a caregiver who has some addiction issues, or they just weren't present, or they abandoned you. All of those can lead to you having this white knight complex. And it basically is telling you, I'm going to give my romantic partners what I didn't receive when I was growing up. I'm going to give them what I wish I would have gotten, what I feel like is important. And you do that and you become a rescuer because no one rescued you, but you end up becoming enmeshed. And what I mean by that is you become so immersed in another's life and problems that you lose your connection and your awareness of your own life and your own situation. Okay, so that happens often, especially with women. It's very easy for us to become enmeshed, especially if we're with a man who we would identify as like narcissistic or toxic, or he has issues or whatever. It's very easy for us to become enveloped in their life and to lose our connection with our own. We actually lose sight of our feelings. We lose sight of our desires. We're not even aware of what's going on in the situation. And these are very smart women. These aren't, like women who are clueless. They're very smart, successful, capable. Like I said, you're like the responsible, the oldest or the most responsible, maybe in your family or your friend group or your cousins or whatever. So you're the go-to. It's because you're smart and capable, but you also find yourself giving to others so much that you give what you actually need. You give the time and attention that you need to be devoting to yourself, to others, and you're left, shorthanded. You're left missing what you need in order to be full and whole and fulfilled in your own life. And then you seek that from others. You seek that from partners, friends, things like that. And when people let you down, it's very disappointing. And it's because what you're missing, only you can give to yourself. And when you are giving it to yourself, you actually set the tone for others in your life to give to you, because they're going to model how you're treating yourself. They're going to follow suit. But if you are abandoning your own self and your own needs, then you can pretty much expect that others are going to do the same. Okay, so no one's going to be treating you better than you treat yourself, especially not in a romantic relationship. That may happen for a very short time, but if you've ever dated a man who was really down on himself, it gets draining trying to fill someone up who's like a bottomless pit, trying to pour into someone who just constantly needs that validation, constantly needs to know and be reassured, and to be calmed down from their anxious state. You don't want to be finding yourself in that position where that's you, and it's draining to be with you. For a man, you want him to pour into you and receive that appreciation back, not constant, I have to constantly reassure her all the time. So as someone who is dealing with the white knight complex, you might find yourself attracting liars, cheaters, men who, I don't like to use the term narcissist as a matter of fact, because that's actually a clinical diagnosis, but I notice it's being thrown around a lot in like popular culture. So for the sake of women knowing the type of man I'm talking about, I would say attracting guys who you feel like are narcissistic. Okay, opportunists, irresponsible men, addicts, okay, and people who in general just don't have their life together. So as someone who's like a fixer, a helper, that angel on the shoulder, you are going to attract men who are on that same wavelength, men who are looking for that or need that. But again, that's not the type of romantic dynamic you want, because that's not a fulfilling relationship. That's more of like I'm a healthcare professional and you're my patient, or I'm a social worker and you're my client, or I'm a pastor and you're a member of my congregation. That's not a romantic relationship. That's not going to activate the polarity and the attraction that's needed for that relationship to be fulfilling and something that you can sustain. It ends up feeling like I was describing earlier, like that parent-child dynamic, where it's like I'm taking care of you and I'm not really getting much back. I mean, if you think about it, for those of you that are mothers or caregivers, when you take care of someone who's dependent on you, you don't get a lot back. You might get thanks. You might get, your Mother's Day cards and things like that, those acknowledgments, but you pour in a lot more than you get back. And you're not looking to recreate that same dynamic with a romantic partner, especially not a man who has an ego, because they all do. The male ego is a real thing that you cannot pour into because you don't have that respect for him. You don't have that trust. You cannot rely on him for your safety, your security, and provisions, because you're the one doing that. It throws off the polarity, it throws off the attraction, and the relationship is not sustainable in that state. Okay? Not to mention how it affects you internally. So we get stressed out, you get depression, anxiety, weight gain, your body starts going haywire, you can't find peace, you can become very bitter, very jaded, overwhelmed, tired, because you're fixing constantly, because you're taking on someone else's problems. And usually the person whose problems you're taking on keeps creating more problems. So it's not like it's one issue that you solved and then you move forward and live happily ever after. No, you keep having problems to fix. You keep having messes to clean up and issues to resolve, and that wears on you. And that is not how a relationship is supposed to go. Relationships are work, yes, but the work is personal work and work to continue growing closer as you go through life. It's not the work of, I have to fix your issues. Your issues become my issues, and you can absolve yourself of responsibility and leave the burden on me. You shouldn't feel inclined to do that, and the other person shouldn't be handing off their issues to you. And if you hopped on after I was talking in the beginning, definitely go back and watch the replay. But just to briefly recap, I was saying that when you interfere and you become a fixer in someone's life, you may actually be preventing God from working on them and getting their attention. Because a lot of us, we get motivated to change because we are trying to avoid pain or consequences, or we are pursuing pleasure, joy, or happiness. And if someone is making choices in their life that are not going to lead to good outcomes, if they are self-sabotaging, if they are creating more problems and chaos and havoc in their own life, and you're stepping in, shielding them from that, you're being that security blanket, that soft place to land, that I'm going to resolve it for you, or I'm going to take this on and help you get out of this mess, you prolong that rock bottom that they probably need. God deals with you in those still small places in the pit, like Joseph in the Bible, if you know that story. God deals with you in the pit. If you don't let them get to the point where they're in the pit, when does God ever get to deal with them? When do they actually change? When do they actually have a change of heart versus just the circumstances are different? That problem that they had is now over, but they again find themselves in similar situations. Why? Because their mindset didn't change. They didn't actually have that awakening. And again, you cannot save people. People have to save themselves. Adults have to save themselves. We can save children because children cannot take care of themselves. Adults, we are autonomous. We can take care of ourselves for the most part. So again, you find yourself wanting it for them more than they want it, or you find yourself doing the heavy lifting in the relationship, look into white knight complex, white knight syndrome, and see if you identify with any of those characteristics. Also go back and watch the beginning. I see I have a couple people on. I think, can't see who it is. If you're watching, just say hi so I can say hi to you. I'm just talking, trying to answer this question from a member about constantly attracting men that she has to save or fix. Okay, so also want to go into the dynamics just a little bit. So when you have that white knight complex, you are training your partner to rely on you to do the emotional heavy lifting in the relationship. So a lot of times you may be thinking, oh, I'll do it now, and they will reciprocate. When I go through something or when I have an issue, they'll step forward and help me. A lot of times that's not what happens, because you establish the dynamic that you do the work, you do the heavy lifting, and they become reliant on you instead of activating their own problem-solving brain, their own perspective on their own life and the things that they need to do. They rely on you. It's like a learned helplessness type of situation. Okay, and one thing I want to highlight as well is in these dynamics, normally, if you did not have the white knight complex, you would be turned off by drama. But unfortunately, when you have this need to fix, save, help, rescue, whatever, you're actually activated by drama. Now, it's not drama from day one. It usually sprinkles in and trickles in slowly. So the guy is very charming in the beginning. You have a lot of chemistry. It gets off to a great start, but it's not long before you start seeing those red flags. But to you, because of your perspective, your vision doesn't quite see them as red flags. Your vision is seeing them as pink or orange or, some kind of shade that's close to red, but not quite red. And it's like, well, maybe I can work with that. That's not so bad. He has a crazy relationship with his ex. He has, baby mama drama. He has some money issues. He's trying to get his life together. He's got, problems, and not problems like everyday stuff. Like, he has some significant issues. And instead of you being off put by that, you're actually activated. You lean forward a little bit and you're like, well, he seems nice enough. Maybe he's just, a poor guy who got a bad break, or, he's never had a woman love and appreciate him for the great person he is. That's such a shame that all the women he's been with have just used him, and they've been, these horrible, toxic women, and his kids' moms, or this and that, and they just used him, or they didn't want to work, they didn't want to do their part in the relationship, they don't love the kids, whatever story it might be. The way he was raised, his parents don't love him, he was abandoned, he's been done wrong, he has this sob story, and you're activated by it. Because for you, it's like, ding ding, there's something here that I can fix. I can prove myself to be a great woman, wife material, that I'm useful, that I can solve problems. It's almost like you're interviewing for a job. Your mind is like, these are all the ways that I can show myself to be valuable and win love and loyalty from this person. Okay, because I'm going to give them what they're missing, give them what they need. That's what I would want someone to do for me. But you're not realizing that you, as an adult, even though you weren't given it, you have it to give to yourself. So that means this other person, despite their sob story, they also have it to give to themselves too. They're just choosing not to. They're choosing to make poor choices. People who can solve problems and help others and be empathetic and compassionate and make good decisions don't necessarily have to come from environments where they saw that growing up, or where they were treated with a certain love growing up. You either choose to do it or you don't. So adults that are choosing to make poor decisions, we can't give them a laundry list of excuses why. The court of law doesn't do that. They say, oh, I'm sorry you grew up in the foster system. I'm sorry that you grew up in poverty, or that you lived in the hood, or that you had this and that going on. I mean, they care, but caring doesn't save you from the consequences. They care enough to mention it or to say, oh, that's too bad, but they still hold you accountable. And that's because as adults, especially in this day and age, we have access to so many resources. We have access to so much help, and you can overcome your circumstances, but you still have a responsibility to make good decisions as an adult for yourself. And if you don't, then there's consequences to that, and no one can save you from those consequences. But a white knight will try to save the person that they love, or the object of their affection, from those consequences. And it's detrimental both to them and to the person that they're trying to save. Okay, and let me see. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 things that you need to do if this is you. Okay, so first thing is you need to sit back and kind of take stock. I would look at least your last 3 to 5 relationships and see if this dynamic existed there, where you were the more responsible one, the fixer, the one that took care of everything, solving all the problems. They created a lot of the problems and you were solving them. You became consumed and lost yourself. You were not taken care of nor attentive to your needs. You were more focused on their needs and what they needed support in, and what they wanted, and how they felt, and how they would react if you said or did certain things. Like, you completely lost yourself in that relationship. And evaluate that, because you want to notice patterns. Patterns point toward things that need your attention. Those are like road signs, basically. Like, hey, you're going down a certain road here because the man changed, but the dynamic stayed the same. And who's the common denominator in those relationships? It's you. And so often we get fixated on the man and what he needs to do to change, how he did us wrong, what his issues were, his mama, his backstory, and, you know, the details of what happened in the relationship. But it's really a message for us. And in order to not recreate that in your future relationships and to kind of break out of that cycle, you have to look at it. You have to see it for what it is. And sometimes it's hard. I have struggled with this too. Sometimes it is hard to have that honest look and be honest with yourself about what's occurred in these relationships, but keep repeating it to yourself. Because what you've done is you've kept repeating, blaming the man for everything in your mind. A lot of times we have vilified the man and we victimized ourselves. And that keeps us in this helpless place of, I wish so-and-so would act differently so that my life could have been different. When you look at yourself and you keep rehearsing the ways that you made choices that don't align with what you want, and that led you down the road that you ended up finding yourself, you see where you could have made a different choice. You see where there were other roads that were available to you that you didn't choose. And then you take the opportunity to choose them the next time around. And that's how you break out of those cycles. That's how you change your fate, change your luck, change the men you are attracting and the men you're attracted to. Because you can attract anybody, especially if you're a beautiful, radiant woman, you're going to attract all kinds of men. But it's really the men that you are attracted to and that you give the time of day that you need to be concerned with. All men are not your concern. Just the ones that you allow into your life and to share in your energy. Okay, so step 1 is evaluate your patterns, okay, in relationships. 2, you need to do your healing and your inner work. I talk about this a lot, but I mean, the bottom line is, if you won't do the healing and the inner work, you will not be able to have a healthy relationship, because healthy relationships require the inner work. It's not only a prerequisite, it is like continuing education. You have to do this regularly and often. It's not easy to merge lives with another person, especially as you go through the seasons of life and have your own individual path that you're walking, as well as a path together. You have to be versed in how to self-soothe, how to address those wounds that come up that need your attention. That is a special gift that we give our partners when we're in relationship with them, is we are a mirror to show them where they need to heal. And we trigger each other in a way that calls a lot of those issues to the surface, but the purpose is for healing. The purpose is so it can be addressed, so that you can take it to a therapist, a coach, a healer, whoever you decide to go to. I mean, even reading a book, not that I would just leave it at reading a book, but that is something you can do to help support your healing journey and doing your inner work. Expand your awareness, expand the way that you look at your life and how you've responded to certain situations that haven't turned out well. Because for every area that you struggle in, there is someone who has mastered it. There is someone who's figured it out. And your situation's not that unique. A lot of times we think, no one's gone through what I've gone through and they don't understand my situation. Honey, there is a book and a support group that is full of women who have gone through the same things you've gone through. Trust me. Trust me. There is no story that you can tell that is so unique and so mind-blowing that, you know, a professional or even women who aren't professionals but just have lived experience are going to look at you like, well, I can't relate to that. May not be your circle of friends, but there are people out there, and you have to be activated to find those people, find those resources, be motivated to pursue it because you want the healing, because you want to be free, because you want to feel better, and not allow these things to have power over you. Because life is happening. Life's happening now. We're about to go into a new year, and I know for me, And I'm sure for a lot of you, you don't want to keep recreating the same situation in your relationships. You're ready for something different. My best friend, she says, I want new problems in the name of Jesus. And when she says new problems, she doesn't mean she wants worse problems. She's just tired of struggling with the same ones. And she got that. She got into a healthy relationship, and the things that she butts heads with her current man about is not the stuff that she used to butt heads with her previous partners about. It's not, call me, text me, see me, spend time with me. It's, what should we have for dinner? Or should we go to this event? Or, just everyday stuff that's not major, but it makes a difference. There's going to be conflicts, but you don't have to keep having the same ones in that long relationship you've been in or in different relationships over time. If they keep coming up, it's something you need to look at, something you need to heal, and you can do it. And you don't even have to have the cooperation of your partner. You're powerful enough to address it on your own, actually. But focusing on your partner and their issues is the easiest way for you to distract yourself from the blaring stoplight in your face that God is showing you, that life is showing you, that, hey, we need your attention. Check engine light is on here. We need you to address this. And you're not. And you're distracting yourself, like I posted on the status earlier today, with work, school, your kids, starting a business. Girl, I'm trying to do this and that. I need to travel. I need to blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff is great. But if you're not doing your inner work, it's a distraction, because that needs to be on your list of priorities too. That is super important, because if you're not right on the inside, I don't know how you expect things to be right on the outside. Okay. And the last step, or the last tip I'll give, is to refocus on yourself. All of the energy that you put into trying to fix or help another person in their life, or, sort their problems out, all of that energy, you need to turn it on yourself. So instead of leaning forward, reaching out, trying to establish connection, improve worth, and make their life easier, allow them to sit with the discomfort of their own situation so that they can be motivated to make changes. And if they're not, then that tells you they don't want changes. People that are uncomfortable, they move. They make moves. They make decisions to get out of that discomfort. They make things happen. And a lot of these men are very capable. They're not stupid. They are just used to attracting women who, like you, are willing to save and make their lives easier, willing to help them forego the consequences of their actions and prevent them from feeling what they need to feel to be motivated to be better. So don't be that person that shields them from the natural consequences of their choices. Be that person that takes care of yourself. And if you choose to still be involved or have a connection with them, you can do that, but still maintain healthy boundaries and say, you know what, I will only help when asked, and my help needs to be supplementary to yours, or complementary. Which one is it? The one that basically it's in addition to. I think it's complementary. So I'm not going to do the work for you. If there's you got the job interview, you got your resume done, and you need a ride, I can give you a ride. But I'm not going to do your resume, apply for jobs for you, and give you a ride, and tell you what to say for the interview questions. No. We have to know, okay, my life needs that energy. I need to give that to my own self. If you are struggling with your mental health, your emotional health, if your finances need work, if, like I said, you're not doing the inner work and you have some healing that needs to be done, if you have issues going on with your children, if your health or your weight or your appearance, there are so many things that you could be focusing on that have to do with you that will improve you. But please don't forego the inner work, because like I said, that's very important. But there's so many areas of your life that need your energy and attention that you should not have. You should not have hours and hours to give to someone else when you're not giving to yourself. that's definitely a sign that you are in the fixer, saver, rescuer mode, and that is not conducive to healthy relationships. So that was a very long answer to my new members question, but I hope you all got some value from this video. I didn't want this to be a long live, but I ended up being long-winded per usual, but that's okay, because like I said, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please either DM it to me or post it in the group. I'll be happy to do a video on it in the future, or answer the question, you know, in written form on the post if you'd like. Yeah, so I hope that I think I'm going to tag the person who asked the question so she can watch this video. And like I said, if y'all need anything else, let me know. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and hope you have a very, very happy new year. Let's make 2022 our best year yet. Okay, so I'm setting that intention, and I hope you all are too. And I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.